think halfway through me being in your program, we were having a conversation with somebody, and the topic of how do we describe you came up. And I said, Justin's just an autoimmune guru. I don't know how you do it. You just like make your way into our little heads and just help us deal with the side effects that nobody believes. And to me, I know I mentioned earlier, it didn't make sense how this worked. It's this, like, we get together once a week and talk about what's been going on, the wins, the hard parts, what can we work on, what can we fix, what's stressing us out, how's your sleep, how's your mood, that kind of thing. And it seemed so like, okay, it's just like I'm going in reporting about my life and then I'm going to come out with maybe some strategies. And that's how I walked into it. But it's a community, and it's working and having conversations with people who are dealing with either the same thing you are or something totally different that makes you feel like you're not alone with dealing with everything that you're dealing with. And I found having Hashi to be very, very isolating. And it's really hard when people don't believe you. And it's really hard when people tell you that it's all in your head and here's this little pill that's just going to fix everything. And you just have to take it every morning. And then you feel like you're broken because you take this pill and nothing changes. And they tell you, I mean, for me, the weight has always been a big issue. And I was told by every single doctor, weight's not going to come off. That's not what the pill does. It's going to help with the other symptoms. It's not going to affect that. Your metabolism is just broken. This is just what it is. You're aging. Like, you get all of these excuses for why all of your medical treatment is not going to work, but you need to do it anyways, because if not, your thyroid's just going to get worse and you're not going to have enough thyroid hormone in your body and you're just going to keel over and die. I will be perfectly honest, at the start, I was like, this isn't going to do anything. I was like walked in with not the best attitude because I was like, what's a Zoom call really going to do? And after seeing all of the great things that people were experiencing on your page and the testimonials and how everybody was saying, my antibodies are dropping and my body's changing and I feel so much better, and going at it, not being given a guide, not being given this is what you're going to expect from me and this is what you're going to do and this is how the change is going to happen. That was really hard for me. But I think a lot of us who have personalities like mine need to not be told what to do, need to just learn that you need to go with the flow and that you need to just trust the process and trust that, you know what you're doing. And you've been doing this for a lot of people for a very long time and you know how to help us. And if we trust that, even though you might end up doing a Google search being like, does this really work? Is this really real? Just don't do that. It works. There's nothing else that I've tried that has gotten me as far as I have. And I've been trying to figure out how to be happy for 15 years. And I know that you don't specialize in eating issues, but you address those as well. I can go to restaurants, I can go out with friends, I can let friends cook for me. I don't have to carry protein bars in my purse because I'm scared of what somebody's going to feed me. I don't track calories. I don't need to obsess over the scale. There's so many changes that happened that weren't just Hashi related that you helped me with, even though it wasn't part of what we had discussed was going to be changing. It's not just a thyroid thing, it's a lifestyle thing and it's an attitude thing. And it's completely changed my life, my perspective. And I never thought I'd be where I am now. And I truly think that's all because I did the Thyroid Revive. I came into the program with like weekly panic attacks and they were awful. They were like, need to take time off work, need to sleep through the rest of the day, threw up on myself because I was hyperventilating so much, type of panic attacks. Like, I've definitely been more stressed out when I was in university or when I was working 2 jobs. Like, I've been more physically and emotionally stressed out, but not been dealing with these kinds of episodes. What I realized is that my body I wasn't just emotionally stressed out. I was burnt out. I was drained. I was physically stressed out. And I think that's one piece that a lot of people don't realize is that sometimes not eating enough nutrients or not eating enough calories or over exercising or undersleeping, all of those things can physically be so demanding on your body and we don't see it. And for me, it was like my doctor thought I had Cushing's disease. Like I was checked for the excessive amount of cortisol that I had in my body and I couldn't regulate it. And I would say, like, I don't know what else to do. I did meditation courses. I tried going for outdoor walks. I worked out. I ate well. But something was still off with my nervous system and my body's inability to cope with stress. And I thought I tried every strategy. And the only strategy I hadn't tried was just to be with it, live with it, sit with it, and not overthink things and not live in the future and not have to overplan everything. But that's what was creating my stress. Learning that stress doesn't feel like I thought it would is what made me realize that I was maybe not so emotionally stressed, but definitely very physically stressed. And in the ways that I was emotionally stressing myself out were so easy in retrospect to resolve, like not weighing on my food and not tracking on my food and not putting everything on a nap and not having to live by what my Apple Watch says I burnt and not being able to say, well, this leg day's not done because I haven't hit this number yet. Not living based on trackable measures is what helped take a lot of that stress off of me. And saying things like, okay, I have these 3 social events that I have to attend this week, but I really don't have the energy for it. And I really just need to read a book. So saying no to 1 or saying no to 2, and sometimes saying no to 3 is what I need to do to be able to keep myself at this level where my cup is not full. And I remember hearing that expression before where you're like a drop away from overspilling the glass and thinking that's so silly, like I can handle anything. But that attitude of just bring it on, pile on my plate isn't serving me. And taking the time, and it took a while to just start like unloading my plate and picking the things that matter to me and only letting the people who are good for me into my life and cutting out everything that wasn't serving me took that stress off. And I always thought of stress as like the fight or flight, like bear chasing after me, life or death, that kind of stress, that like not insulin, that adrenaline rush. I thought that's what stress was, but that's not stress. It's this like that you put on yourself that you don't even recognize anymore because it's such a big part of who you've become that I would say to family members, friends, I'm not stressed though. I'm fine. Nothing's going on. My life is normal. It's as good as this gets. And I could say that on a very relaxed day. But in retrospect, now I can look at what my life was 6-8 months ago and be like, boy, was I stressed out. And I was burnt out. I was tired and I was sick. And I didn't recognize it because to me, that's not stress. Stress is I'm about to lose my house or I have nothing to eat but that's the big stress. It's not the stress you create for yourself that you can handle and you choose not to, or you don't recognize. But now that I can recognize it and I can say, I'm at my limit, I need to do this for myself. You walk into this group or you meet all these other people who are dealing with something similar, or it might be totally opposite, but somewhere along the line, your journeys kind of intersect. And maybe they've overcome something that you're dealing with, and you can hear how much success they've been having just being able to talk about these things or the things that have worked for them. It's nice to have a community and feel like you can go there and be open. And I mean, I've been in talk therapy before, and I've never been able to open up like I've been able to open up the ladies in the Thyroid Revive group because I feel like there's no judgment there. We've all just been through either years of the same thing or are new and scared of what we're dealing with and not been able to get answers, and we can understand each other and just be open. And everyone's just there to support, and I think that's the best part about it. And then you come in and give us this guidance, and I remember there's been guidance you've given other people that I'm like, oh, I'm gonna implement that too, like I really like that. Or that's even hearing other people talk about what's worked for them works for us too. I started somewhere in like the 600 or 700s TPO. And then I went down to like 250 3 months ago. And now I'm sitting at 96, which is like borderline normal, which is blowing my mind. And I don't know, I didn't really do anything. I mean, I eat more things than I did when I first measured my antibodies, and I was so sure that's what was causing it. It was like, I'm like, it's the gluten, it's the dairy, it's the soy, it's the nightshades, it's the salt, it's vegetable oils and peanut butter and strawberries. And I had that so like engraved in my brain that I couldn't even eat strawberries because strawberries have mold. And I was giving myself all these crazy restrictions. And I'll be the first to say gluten and dairy are things I will not touch, and they make me feel sick. So I know not to. But that doesn't mean I can't have a glass of wine. And that doesn't mean I can't have strawberries. Strawberries are so good. And I was cutting all of these things out and going to restaurants and asking for ingredient lists and being like, well, if you're not using sea salt, I can't eat here.
Mm.
Um, and letting that go. I think that's something that blew my mind is watching my I was shocked. I literally saw them yesterday. My thinking has shifted from thinking that antibodies are reflective of um, diet and um, progression of disease, and I think it's, for me, they're more about stress and happiness. And I think that the more I've been able to find peace, and the more that I've had better happy days than bad days, that's when I've started to see the biggest shift in my antibodies. I keep saying it, I'm not married to that number. It could go up, it could go down. But to me, the biggest indicator that I've come far is how I feel, and how I don't have panic attacks, and how I sleep like a baby, and how every day just seems exciting, and every day just I look forward to it. I go to bed excited, ready for the next day, even if it's going to be a busy one. Um, I think that's how I measure progress now. It's not antibodies, it's not TSH, it's not labs. It was actually my doctor who suggested I do a lab because I hadn't done one in a while, and I was like, "Do I have to? Do I really?" And that's coming from someone who just like wanted to check antibodies every other week. Having come off of an eating disorder and being in treatment, or trying to do it all by myself, thinking that I didn't need to ask for help and that it was something that I could manage on my own because I'd been doing it for about a year, and realizing, being very, I guess the word I could use is obsessed with the fitness industry, and following all the big accounts and wanting to imitate their workouts, and living in that mindset of like you only get results if you put 110% in. And I could quote all of the, abs are made in the kitchen and 70% of it is diet and all of that, and really believed it. I truly believed that I was doing something wrong because I wasn't getting the results that I wanted, and I didn't look like the influencers that I was following, and I 100% believed I was doing everything right. And I was looking for coaches, I was looking for different guides, and I was willing to buy anything. And then I got super sick and started having panic attacks, and my hair started falling out, and I was retaining water, and my digestion was horrible. And I kept going to my doctor and he kept telling me I was nuts. It's in your head, it's in your head. I saw an endocrinologist who told me that I was lying about my calorie tracking. There was no way someone could accurately measure food that much, and somebody couldn't exercise that much, and you've got no time to do anything else. Like, how can you be doing so much? You're lying, you're exaggerating. It's in your head. And my uncle, who's a doctor, said, "Why don't you get your thyroid checked?" Just because it runs in my family. And Hashimoto's came up. And I saw a naturopath, and my voice is a little all over the place just because I'm sick, but sorry. Um, I went to see a naturopath who like put me on a 1,000 calorie diet. And as somebody who had come out of restricting so much, to be told the only way you're going to get results is to start restricting again, and to have gluten taken, soy taken, nightshades taken, a bunch of vegetables taken, a bunch of proteins taken, just have being on the autoimmune protocol. And it's so limiting. It was so distressing. And now I'm actually getting emotional. It was really hard. And the panic attacks started getting worse. And even being home, I was having panic attacks and like really just not feeling well. And then I came across your account, and we started talking about how I didn't have to restrict, and how I felt like Hashimoto's is punishment for having put my body through everything that I put it through for the last 12 years, and coming to the realization that it wasn't, and going from I'm being punished for what I've done to this is the best thing that could have happened to me because it's taught me so much about myself and life and perspective and how I need to look at it in a different way. And the interesting thing that was my personal experiences. I know you talk a lot about childhood trauma and how most people don't realize they have a lot of it. And I was one of those people who was like, no way, I don't have a lot of that. Like, there's no way. My childhood was normal. My childhood was great. And I don't even need to figure out what it was that caused it. I don't need to dig deep and figure out what went wrong or what was said to me or what experiences I've had. I just knew that I had to change my thought patterns, and I don't need to obsess over everything. I don't need to micromanage everything.
Mhm.
And that applies to like work and to food, and um I'm doing a little more of like the intuitive eating. I was actually very surprised. New York kind of opened my eyes a little bit about intuitive eating, and then the other piece is about not being married to numbers. That's something that was big for me as well. I went from like weighing and measuring just because I needed to have, to make sure that I had the right amount of chicken, weighing and measuring, whether that be food or liquids or my body weight or anything like that, just learning that those are not the only things that matter. And what matters more is my peace. And I know when we had our very first conversation, my question to you was, by the end of this, will I've lost the weight? And you said, maybe that's not the most important thing. And then I remember being so mad. And I was like, well, I don't know if I want to do this because there's no guarantees. And just thinking, I mean, your question to me was, is that really that important? Is that going to be the make it or break it thing? What if we can figure out everything else and that's the one thing that doesn't change? What if you change and that stops being so important? And I thought you were nuts. And I'm like, well, how is that not being important? It's the only thing that's mattered for the last 30 years of my life. And then somehow I got to that point where I'm just like, it is what it is. 5 pounds up, 5 pounds down. It happens. Um, it doesn't mean that I can go on a vacation and enjoy it. Yeah, and that was great. And does that mean that I can, like, one of the things I remember even being so concerned about, I'm like, well, I can't have a glass of wine again for the rest of my life. And getting rid of those limiting beliefs. And I'll tell you, more than one, and nothing happened, and I didn't die. My antibodies didn't shoot up, and I didn't start having panic attacks, and I didn't start feeling brain foggy or tired or whatnot. Nothing happened. And it was those things where I lived in this world of like black and white, and everything, like I had to have a plan to fix, and learning that there is no plan and that there's nothing to fix. I'm not broken and there's nothing wrong with me. Those were the important things that I think have been the gems, like